Yo, what's up, people? We are back. I'm the solarkidd, and this is the Other Side of the Sun podcast, where I call this a journey of self-discovery through people and their stories, and how I and we can learn from each other and the many different perspectives around the world in the quest for understanding. And my guest for today is the lovely Robyn. I don't know if I should divulge her surname, but AKA Proudbushie.
Yes.
AKA, well, you've got a YouTube channel called West Side with Wanderlust, and
Yes.
you comment sort of on social issues, social political issues, and offer some advice surrounding lifestyle tips and stuff as well, and issues surrounding sort of GBV and gender-based violence and that sort of thing. And that's the main reason I reached out to you and asked you to be here. So welcome, thank you. This is
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
pleasure.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Hopefully, I'm gonna get some juicy information on your perspective on things, which I find quite interesting. And we're gonna be talking about a few different things. One of the main things is I saw a video that Robyn did, and I'll probably put links and stuff in the description to some of the work she's been doing. And it was about, the title was actually "Don't Call Me Colored" or something like, was it "Don't Call Me Colored"?
Yeah, it was Dear South Africa, Stop Calling Us Colored.
Dear South Africa, stop calling us colored. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure for those who have watched my show by now, you will understand that we are not referring to specifically the derogatory nature of the word colored. In South Africa, there are a group of people where we've actually been racially classified by the government in, legally speaking, to be this group called colored. So in South Africa, you have white people, black people, colored people, Indian people, and so on and so on. So your video was Dear South Africa, Don't Call Me Colored. And there was also a few others that you did, Africa and exploiting Indigenous people. So I really want to get to know about your opinions and views of this. And let's start with Don't Call Me Colored. So can you just give the people a sort of brief description of what it was about and what your opinion was based on for that video?
Yes, so Dear SA, Do Not Call Me Colored came about when it was in 2020 when a South African teacher was charged with fraud for identifying as colored. Like you said, in South Africa. Oh, sorry. A South African teacher was charged with fraud for identifying as African on his CV when he was applying for a job. And that happened in 2018, I think, and the charges came about in 2020. And so, like you just said, South Africa, when they brought about the Population Registration Act, the whole apartheid, it was law, and they put together this Population Registration Act. And in this law, in this act, they classified Indigenous people as colored. And so, they did it back then already, all those years ago, decades ago, and today, Indigenous people are still classified colored. But what they did was in 1950, they put a definition to this colored. So it's a different definition to the rest of the world's definition. South Africa's definition for classified colored people is that we are a mixed race. A mixed race consisting of all these different races. So they call it the Khoisan, classified Khoisan. It's a mix of the Khoisan, it's the mix of the European, it's the mix of the Black African, it's the mix of the Asian. It's just a mix of everything. That's what South Africa classifies Indigenous people as. And there are classified colored people who are mixed, that is a real thing. but Indigenous people are also classified colored. So that becomes tricky when you get charged with fraud for identifying as African when you are African. It's just the South African government classifies you as colored, and then you get charged with fraud.
So I mean, that is pretty deep, especially because for someone like me, I've lived in London over 15 years, 16, almost 18 years, almost 20 years. And when you leave Africa or South Africa and go out into the world, you know, I refer to myself as an African because I was born and bred in Africa. You know, I grew up there. I was 25 when I left, you know, so I wasn't like a young kid. So I feel like I'm African. So, I mean, how can someone who lives in South Africa, born and bred, be, you know, I don't know, taken out for
have indigenous lineage
and have indigenous lineage. So, I mean, that part, like, I wanted to pick your brain about as well, because obviously, like I told you beforehand, I've done a DNA test, and that sort of proves the mixed race that's within me. So, European, Asian, African, and indigenous, and all of the above, basically all in this thing. But as you said, they also threw all the actual indigenous people, the Bushmen, the Khoi, the San, you know, the Nama, all into this thing and call them colored. So now, like you said, it's a tricky thing. So how do we like, if they stop calling us colored, like, how do we identify? I mean, are they gonna try and get, like, what do you think we do? Because like you said, and I've noticed that people sort of from more the Western Cape or from the Northern Cape who are classified colored would have more indigenous, you know, in their lineage than someone, say, like me from Johannesburg, where you know, it's a melting pot of all the people who came up from, you know, the Cape and whatever. So, like, obviously was lots of mixing along the way. How do I, because I always have a problem kind of identifying as anything, you know, and this is why I've researched history and stuff over the years, because to someone who sees me from the outside, if I say I'm black, they'll be like, what? If I say I'm colored, they'll be like, huh? If I say I'm African, they'll be like, huh? Like what? North African? Algeria, maybe? Morocco, you know? Not
yes.
African. So there's these stereotypes and shit. Like, but anyway, the main question was like, how do you see us finding ourselves in that, especially the people who are so mixed and compared to the indigenous people who are actually, you know,
yes. You see, I love that you asked that question, and I have asked myself this question too. And like, this is why I believe that everything happens for a reason, because the man who was charged with fraud, his name is Glen Snyman. He's a teacher, but he's also the founder of the People Against Race classification. And I spoke about them briefly in the Do Not Call Me Khaled video. And like, my thing is, why do we feel this necessity to, like, I have to have a race label? Like, that is indoctrination right there. And it's hard to come to terms with it, because I also feel uncomfortable identifying as anything, because I prefer to identify with culture, not with race. So if another person likes to identify as race, but I don't want to be put in a box. And the thing is, like,
sorry to cut you, but like, for me, culture is also a social construct, and even though I love the beauty of culture, it's also something that separates humanity. Do you know what I'm saying? So sorry.
Yes, like divides. No, that is true. And the thing is, I guess we can look at it that way, but we can also look at it in another way of being able to share and embrace different cultures, like whatever culture you come from. But that's the crazy thing about the response of Don't Call Me Khaled, is that people were asking, like, then what do I identify as if, like, this is not a real thing? He's saying that, like, classified colored people, it's not a real thing, it's created, it was constructed. And the thing is, if race classification didn't exist, we wouldn't be having this issue. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But because it's so enforced and like indoctrinated into us to like, I need race labels. I need the Population Registration Act. Like it's a form of mental slavery.
People need something to identify with, and something I've noticed about people in the world, whether you be British, white, or Zulu, you know, there's a deep sense of pride that comes from your history and your lineage, and it gives people a sort of air of understanding or knowledge or self-knowledge about who they are and where they come from,
and belonging.
Belonging and purpose in place in the world. Whereas with us, you know, I find it hard. And yes, we do have things that can be defined as culture. You know, people like to go on about Cook Sisters on a Sunday and, you know, pickle fish.
Hashtag colored culture exists.
You know, like all those things. And yes, I do agree with them. But personally, like, I don't know. It's a weird thing, man, because where am I going with this? For me personally, I'm a weirdo in the sense that I don't like to be put into groups and places and stuff, because I'm quite a socially fluid person. I've always been someone that can, you know, and that's me. Not everybody's like that, you know what I mean? But then also within those classifications, you have the people who are indigenous, whose lineage does trace back hundreds of thousands of years to the First Nations people of Southern Africa and whatever and stuff. And we all, as mixed or like colored people, we all have that part of our ancestry, but some are more than others, and some are like 100% more than others. So for us that aren't, where do we fall now? Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, like where, I mean, I'm not sure, like, how do you identify? Have you done any research into your lineage or your background? Or
For me, I identify as Korana and I identify as Tamil. So Korana is where my research took me. That is where my research took me, but I don't practice
Korana
from either side, Korana or Tamil. I don't practice the traditions, the rituals. I'm very domesticated, colonized. I don't know what I should call it.
This is what I try to explain to people as well. Is colored people. A lot of our culture is very Western and maybe Asian as well in terms of the cooking, you know, the curries and the stews that we make and stuff like that. So like Westernized Asian and very formal as well, you know what I mean? Like in terms of the way we greet and like your hat and like with your parents and stuff. And because you go to church or you go to mosque, you know, it's quite Westernized.
Westernized, yes. And that's the thing, that's the reason why they brought about the color classification, is to legitimately de-Africanize and Westernize. So now we're at this point where we are internalizing it and we prefer the Westernized version. And like, that's fine. I don't know, like, anyway, what was your next question? Before we go too deep, I always go.
Okay,
yes.
Let's try and understand, like, sort of where your opinion comes from. Like, where did what's your background? Where did you grow up? What type of school did you go to? Was it the Model C school? Was it the colored school? Or like, where did you grow up?
I guess it was Model C. It was what is it? Bilingual. Yeah, it was the English and Afrikaans school, but I went to school English. School in Cape Town was chilled. It was a major change over here because over there, I feel like...
You grew up in Cape Town originally?
Yes. Yeah, it was just a major change moving from Cape Town to Durban. But yeah.
So you lived in Cape Town, Durban and Johannesburg?
Did I say Durban?
Yeah.
Sorry, only Johannesburg.
Okay.
Did I really say Durban?
Yeah, I was thinking that's quite interesting.
My bad. No, only Joburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, when did you first realize, like, that you, like, what colored, and like how did this shape your opinion of the world and stuff?
I feel like I always okay, so in school is where we would always have to they would mistake the registration, and then multiple times a year they would ask us like they would take demographics, and so they need your race, they need your age, they need your parents information and everything. So every year it was like colored, and I don't know, I just always figured, just like everyone else, just always figured like, oh no, we colored. And then when I finished school and I just started wondering about myself, like, where are my roots, where do I come from? And so it was only after school, after I finished high school, that I started going on this journey of research and having like a really deep questions about this research and my ancestors and my spirituality and all of that.
Oh yeah, that's one question as well. Is are you religious or spiritual, or like what is your
I am spiritual. I don't want to say I was raised. My mother always gave me freedom of choice in every aspect of my life. So, but like my family, the whole family is Christian from both sides. But I am not. I'm more spiritual. I do believe in God, but not the God that I was taught.
Okay.
So, what are you? Are you religious, spiritual?
No, I mean, I grew up the normal kind of colored religious Christian vibe. I went to church. I was forced to go to church on a Sunday, after club on a Saturday night vibe. But
Always.
but I'm spiritual. Like I believe in energy. I believe in, you know, possibly a God, if there is, you know, that thing. But I do believe in energy and spirituality, and I draw inspiration from a lot of ancient texts, you know, which kind of speak similar truths across the board. Love your neighbor as yourself kind of vibes, and be good to people, and you know what I mean, just general common knowledge shit, really. Do you know what I mean? Whether you believe the praying mantis is your God, or you believe in, you know, Shiva, or you believe in Jesus, or whatever, like for me personally, I believe it all comes from the same place within us as humans, you know, that need for, because you feel it when you're in nature, or you feel it when you in something beautiful, or you experience something amazing, you know what I mean? You experience something that's bigger than you, whether you like standing on Table Mountain or you're standing in some tropical island, you feel the sense of, you know, well, I do anyway. And that's kind of my take on
so that. You say you're more spiritual. When I went through this phase of also like questioning my God, like who is my God? And I started questioning my spirituality. And I felt this like guilt of not conforming to the religion that I was taught. I felt the guilt, and it wasn't coming from a place that I feel like my God would project onto me, you know. But there is this guilt that comes with like owning your spirituality and because the thing is, I feel like that some religions are also used to conquer.
Well, not some, most. You know, Christianity is not, you know, all of them have been big perpetrators in changing the face of the world. Not to mention that, like, in the way, like, there's people might find this really contentious or controversial, but like the way religion was used to sort of numb or nullify the threat of slaves, and, you know, whether it be whether it be in America or South Africa, you know, they have this amazing passion for Jesus, white Jesus dude, you know, and they're singing and praising, and on the walls, you go into any black house or colored house or whatever, and you see there, the love of money is the root of evil, you know. Like, for me, I find that really rubbish, you know what I'm saying? Because those are the things that make you stay in your where you are. You know, if everybody's thinking, oh, I can't love money, so I shouldn't be successful, because if I love money, then it means, God is gonna punish me. But that is so far from the truth. When the fucking slave masters are accumulating wealth beyond your means, taking your land, taking it back to Europe, from the States to wherever, to the Caribbean, to Asia, you know what I mean? And like telling you, okay, here's a diamond. Just be happy and be humble, and one day when you have to live, one day you're gonna go to this place, and then it will be like things will be better when you get there.
One day someone's gonna save you. Trust.
And
when I feel like I can save myself, like a proud Bushie is me saving myself. Like that's.
So don't you find that word also? I mean, like a Bushie. I use it. We call ourselves Bushies. So how do you feel about the term Bushie? Because it obviously means Bushman, or it comes from Bushman. Because I used to hate it, like when in school, like my black friends would say, "Hey, you're Bushman." But now I embrace it because I know where I come from. So.
Yes. I saw that someone else commented that also. They were like, when people call me Usman or Hottentotte Bushie, I just smile because I know where I come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like me using the Proud Bushie name is me taking my power back. I feel like Bushie is equally as ridiculous as the label colored, or equally as offensive as the label colored, if I were to racially classify. I feel like I would rather racially classify as Bushman, because then at least that's a point to the origin in a very
roundabout way,
diluted, propagated way. But it's better than for me, it would be better than the color classification with a specific definition that was used to conquer an entire nation and erase them.
Yeah, man, it's such a contentious issue, but I love I'm someone who likes stoking fires, and I love dealing with contentious issues, because that's how you grow as a human being. And all my best friends,
difficult conversations.
Yeah, all my best friends know if we can't have difficult conversations, then we can't, I generally don't end up being friends with those people that can't get through shit. You know what I mean? Because that's life. You know what I mean? You have to deal with these things. So
and you have to question everything.
And speaking of dealing with tough issues, you talk a lot about GBV and gender-based violence in South Africa, which is a serious fucking issue in South Africa. Like, a woman is raped, every 4 minutes or some shit like that?
Okay, so a child is raped every 3 minutes. A woman is raped every 3 hours.
3 hours still?
Like every day, every 3 hours, every day. And that's only what's reported. That's just an estimate of what's reported, and not everything is reported.
That's ridiculous. So it shows that there is something wrong with the men in our society and society in general, because these are issues that go across. Obviously, it's more concentrated in South Africa, but this happens all around the world. And the same sort of... So there was a case in England actually recently where a woman, was abused like that, and it came out that it was also gender-based. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't really say because I'm a male, and it's not that I agree with all males and stuff, but it's amazing how these issues can so easily be dismissed because we live in a, patriarchal society. Do you know what I mean? A chauvinist, testosterone-driven world, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, we at the point in South Africa where, I'm tired of hearing people question why we should believe her. Because my question is why should I not believe her? It's happening all the time. How is it that every woman, every girl knows another girl who this has happened to? But like, what, do guys just not know any men who do this? Like, it's really time for South African men to step up, and they the ones with the problem. They the ones that need to make the change. They need to fix it. Gender-based violence is not we are not the cause of it.
I think maybe that's the issue, is that, like, obviously guys don't think that they're at fault. And I mean, this is something I had to think about years ago. Like, I think my wife mentioned, we were talking about something similar, and it was like, so I think it was similar where a lady got raped or like abused or something, and it was like, oh, why was she wearing that short skirt and that outfit? And that was my, opinion. And like, I had to like check myself afterwards to think like, okay, yes, men are weird because, we're visually stimulated, and we're controlled by our not emotions, but like what we see, we sort of want to, you know what I mean? We can't step out of those things. And, but then at the same time, there needs to be a certain responsibility as a man, as a human,
Yes.
to say like, yes, okay, maybe I find that person attractive. I find what she's wearing attractive. I find it maybe slightly inappropriate, and it might make me feel a certain way, but it doesn't mean that means I have to now fucking go and do some shit, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I suppose, and that's a level of maturity that a lot of men need to get to. And I mean, I can honestly say that I only reached those levels of maturity much later in life, even though I thought I was quite a intellectual person, or someone who's, worldly or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's a serious issue that needs to be
it is like, I wish that men could like create a space where they could speak about how to control themselves and their urges. Like, I would like to see South African men to just like create spaces where they can speak about these things. And the thing is, like, it's all like, this always happens with someone that you know. It's an older family member, it's an older family friend. And I don't think that we are educating our children enough on how to prevent these issues. I don't think that even with education for the whole identity issue, there's not enough education. There's not enough education to teach kids in school about sex and gender-based violence. Like this, in high school, I just had LO, and that was just, don't have sex or you're going to get pregnant and get HIV.
What was that, LO?
LO, yeah. There was no actual, and the thing is, like,
life orientation.
Kids are fast. Like, if you're not going to teach them, the phone, the internet is going to teach them. Netflix is going to teach them.
That is so true.
So I think like we need to do better jobs at educating our kids, our sons especially. Like, we need to have higher standards for men in South Africa. Like,
suppose that was like part of one of my question is, where do you see the progression in South Africa and the world? And like, so there's two parts to that question. Is the first part relates to the colored identity, and the second part relates to gender-based violence. So I'll start with the gender-based violence things. Like, where do you see sort of, like you said, schooling, education? So maybe just elaborate a bit more on like, what do you think people could do to kind of.
At this point, I think it's up to parents to teach your kids. I don't think that the education system is going to teach our kids how to not be perpetrators of gender-based violence or survivors of gender-based violence. I don't believe that schools will do that. So it's up to parents. But the thing is, like, I can do the best for my kid, but how do I know that the next person is raising their son right? Like, how? I think it's just education, and we need better role models, like male role models.
I suppose that's the thing, yeah, is having good role models. It's always been.
It's insane. But then, like, you look at the entertainment industry and like who our kids are really looking up to, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean it's so weird because I mean, no matter what era in history I think of, I mean, the role models were never really like, you know, the best kind of people, entertainers. And I mean, I suppose entertainers always say that, is like, I'm not trying to be a role model, I'm just out here trying to be an entertainer. But when you're in the public eye, you do have a certain responsibility, I guess.
Yes, no, that's 100% true. Like, even if I don't want to be anyone's role model, like if I'm taking up space in the digital world, like there is going to be a kid watching my things, and
You have a responsibility.
like there are going to be kids coming across it. So that's why I feel like I should make more GBV videos also. Because in the one video, someone called in, and it was actually like a 14-year-old guy living in SA, and I was like, whoa, and he had like a really strong opinion of GBV.
So maybe that's the key then, is creating these conversations and having these talks and creating the awareness through like platforms like your channel. And like I said before, I will put that in the description.
It's definitely going to happen more often.
So the second part to finish was, and also, where do you see the progression of this term colored? And also, how do you think it should be perceived in South Africa and the world? Because, you know, like outside of South Africa, they say like, if you've got a drop of black blood, then you're black, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But I find that weird because I don't look like black, but I've got lots of, you know, African DNA. You know what I mean? I'm basically like 1/3, you know what I mean? Or African, Asian, whatever. But like, besides that, I don't, you know, care what people think. But where do you see, how can we move this thing forward? Because we can't be kept classified as colored. We can't get moved over to black now because there's a difference in South Africa, especially with the different tribes you have in South Africa. So, and in the world, where do you know what I mean? How do we
see, like, there's no point in, even because like some people wanted the color classification abolished, but they want a new term. They want to be classified as Khoisan. And this is why I really love the people against race classification, because they make it clear that there is no need for racial segregation. Race classification is racial segregation.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need for a label, for a box, for a category. There's really no need. So the only way that this issue can be fixed is if the whole thing was gone. And the crazy thing is that in, when was it, 1991, the South African president, apartheid president, FW de Klerk, he abolished the color classification then already. That was 30 years ago. Like a whole 30 years ago, it was already done. And here we are 30 years later, still being classified colored. So I don't, like, the only way is for the whole system to be gone.
Yeah, that's true.
For race classification to be abolished. Because then there would be no need for but I can't classify colored, but I can't classify black because like this is how I look, like the whole.
I'm South African basically, or I'm African, or you know.
Yeah, that's what the people against race classification say. They are South African.
Okay.
Not black, not colored, not Indian, not white. South African.
Yeah, that might take a while. Yeah, it might.
But at the end of the day, like, it's all up to everyone else how they want to identify. And
maybe there should be a thing like of you know, like how people are becoming gender fluid these days. You know what I'm saying? So you can be a human being, but you can be non-binary, or you know, not identify as male or female and stuff like that. So maybe
I would like to be non-racial.
Yeah, non-racial.
Just non-racial.
I suppose we could create that actually.
Oh, it's going on a proudbushie.
But you see, aren't you perpetuating a stereotype by saying things like that, or are you just trying to bring awareness to people that, you know, there is a thing called a Bushie, or, you know?
I find power in saying I am a proud Bushie. I find power in that, because from being told that we don't exist or our culture doesn't exist, let me show you the stereotype. Let me show you the derogatory label. What is a Bushie? Where does it come from? So I mean, I'm sure like some people could find it derogatory or offensive. No one has actually said to me yet, like, yo, I don't like this, like, don't do this or whatever.
Or maybe, yeah, it's like, it's a good way to kind of push the narrative to create awareness in the hopes of bringing about change, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I still feel like it's my voice, it's my platform, and I have shit to say. So I'm going to say.
Well, keep on doing it, because I'm enjoying the content. And also, I just want to say thank you for actually making the time to share your views and insights with us. If you can just let people know where to find you, I'll add it. So.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really dope. So you can find me on YouTube. I am Westside with Wanderlust. Wanderlust doesn't have an A, it has an X.
Okay,
it's a silent.
I'll put it in the description.
Yes. And then on Instagram, you can find me at Wanderlust_online, and you can find me at a Proud Bushie on Instagram also.
Away, a Proud Bushie!
Yes! That's what we are.
Okay.
That's how it is. Yeah.
But Robyn, thank you so much for coming on the show today, people. This is, as always, the Other Side of the Sun podcast. And keep watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do your thing, as well as, you know, like and subscribe, and follow Robyn's channels, and see what's going on with her and all the Bushies in South Africa. And yeah, thanks again. Peace and love.
Thank you.